Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to share my 2017 honorable mentions. At the end of the year, a lot of us here on BookTube like to talk about our favorite books of the year, our most disappointing books, or our most disliked books of the year, and a lot of us include those honorable mentions in those actual videos. However, I am doing mine separate this year, and let me give you a little explanation of why, and then we will jump into the stack of books. So let me just go ahead and start off by saying that I didn't include these on my best list because I think, number one, a lot of people are already talking about these books. Number two, they're already popular on Instagram and here on BookTube, so at least you've seen them a lot. Number three, some of them are rereads, some of them are part of series, and some of them are just books that didn't quite make that number one spot, but all of these books could have easily made like my favorite books of the year because I loved them all. But I try not to make my best list like super long. I mean, maybe next year I'll just go crazy and put all of my favorite books in the top, but these are like, you have your favorites and then you have your favorites that's like right below that. Let's go ahead and jump into this stack, but I will say that the last three books that I'm going to talk to you about are very recent reads. So let's go ahead and put it out there. Yes, I loved the Night Circus. I'm not a fan of magical realism, I have found in my reading. And this is magical realism, but it's also like a fantasy. It's also just magical. It's also just like this wonderful, detailed, multi-decade story about these two magicians and a circus and just this like circus family. And I really loved it. I loved the reading experience. And if you're hesitant on picking it up, just give it a try. It's so good. Next one was a shocker. I read it over the summer during BookTubeathon, and this is one of Alex's all-time favorite books, and that is Not If I See You First by Eric Lindstrom. Like, this book blew my mind. It was such an unassuming book, but I just ended up loving it so much. It's about friendship and just, that's what stands out to me about this book is like the friendship, and I had this forever. This is one of those books that I got in uppercase. I got like a little signed book plate, and I just don't even understand why it took me so long. I've had this book since it came out, obviously. 2015. So I waited 2 years to read this, and it was so good. And I know like he has other works that I want to check out now because I really liked the writing style. I liked the contemporary vibes, the friendship vibes, and yeah, I really liked the characters in this book as well. The one that I read during BookTubeathon that I absolutely loved is If I Was Your Girl. Loved this by Meredith Russo. It has transgender rep in it, and I thought it was done very well from my perspective, straight white female. So, but I do have transgender friends, and I loved this so much. Hoping for like a good book, and because I've read ones about transgender, you know, characters before, and while they were okay, the rep wasn't as good, or it didn't focus on the things that I wanted it to focus on, and this one really did. So I loved this one. I also was super shocked that I loved this tiny little book as much as I did. I don't think I knew it was as little. I mean, it's like, it's handheld size, you guys. I thought this was like a regular size book, but this is We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and sorry if I butchered that name, but this was so good. It's a super quick read. It's like a little essay, and it's about feminism. Oh, it was her TED Talk. That's what it was. It was her TED Talk, and I loved it. It brought up some really good points about if we focus on interest instead of gender, and if we trying to unlearn lessons of gender that we learned growing up. It's a super quick read, and I like added every single other work that this author wrote like onto my wish list as soon as I read this, because it was just like straight and to the point and informative, and like you just kind of walked away from it going, and I think about it often. So Another great book that I read about mental illness this year was Under Rose-Tainted Skies by Louis Garnall, and this is the one that I read, and then I started researching other books about like OCD and mental illness, and that's when I ran across Obsessed by Alison Britz, and that's why I requested that book, is because I had just finished reading this book and I really, really loved it, and I just needed more of that OCD, like insight into OCD into my life. And when I found out that Allison's book was, you know, a memoir, I was like, I definitely need this book. I thought it was like a fearless story about a young girl that is dealing with OCD, and I just thought it was really well done, and I will look for this author in the future. I did put both of The Wayward Children, I think it's called, Every Heart a Doorway, and Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Sean McGuire. Again, these are super thin books, but her writing reminds me of Lois Lowry's in a way, that she packs a complete story in such a short amount of time, and it's descriptive enough so you feel immersed in the story, but it's not like overly descriptive, overly flowery. It's like, here's the story I have to tell, here's the story, I'm done, and I love it. Like, Every Heart a Doorway was a great like opening book because it kind of told you about the world that we're going to be talking about. It introduced you to a lot of the characters. It had a little mystery element woven in. It has great diversity. This one I really liked because, again, this one we're going into one of the worlds, some of the characters from the first book, like side characters. This is their story, and Jack and Jill, and it was so amazing. It was like so in depth, but again, so short. Like, I like people that can like tell me your story in 10 words. Like, what's your story? And I feel like she was able to tell me this like huge, magical, deep, interesting, twisted, like screwed up story in like less than 200 pages. Yeah. So if you can write me a story in less than 200 pages that completely grips me, like, these are awesome books. Definitely pick it up. The new book releases very soon, and I am highly anticipating it. So if you haven't picked up this series, I don't know what you're waiting for. The next book on this list is 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray. The reason why this didn't make my favorite books of the year, it didn't make it on the other list, is because this was my reread of it. I loved this story so much. It's so good. What I love about this story and the trilogy in general is there's a lot going on. There's parallel worlds. There's like kind of sci-fi technology, sciencey stuff going on. There's family things going on. There's romance, and it all is done so well. You're never confused. You're never confused about the technology or, you know, the sci-fi elements or the parallel worlds, like what world is she in and how is this world run? And it's so good. Puppy break. So today, as I'm filming this, it is the day after Christmas. It's the 26th, and tomorrow is Charlie's birthday. She turns 1 year old, don't you? Oh my gosh. Anyway, so she just came back here, and I thought I would just show you guys how big she's gotten. Look how big she is. She's like 6.3 pounds or something like that, right? Almost 6.5 pounds, huh? Anyway, whoa, she's like jumped off. Anyway, okay, the last 3 books that I'm going to share with you are all super recent reads. The first one is Here Lies Daniel Tate. Blown away by this. I believe I gave it 5 stars. The mystery element, the family, Daniel, the main character, just everything. Well written, loved it, totally captivated since page number 1. Loved it. Definitely pick it up. I will link the 5 reasons why you need to read this book down below. The next one is Warcross by Marie Lu. This was my first Marie Lu book. The reason why these didn't make is they were like such recent reads. I haven't had time to like sit on them, but they probably would have made my favorites. Warcross was so amazing. I did do a full review of this, but if I had to describe it in like a short little snippet, it would be future, like near future sci-fi Hunger Games without death. So that's what I would describe this as. I love the gaming element. I love the main characters. I love the description, the world, the environment, the game, the technology. Yes. I will link my review down in the description box. And then the last one on this list was a super recent read, and it's not posted yet, but I do have it coming soon. It's 5 Reasons Why You Need to Read Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I literally just finished reading this book. Didn't want to put it on my top favorites because I haven't had time to sit with it. But even since making that video, I'm like, this probably should have been on my favorites. It was so good. Another OCD, mental illness represented book in the form of thought spirals and anxiety. And I have been so curious about what John Green's been up to and, you know, what his next book would be about. And I just was kind of blown away by this. I really loved it. Still don't know if it's my favorite John Green book. That's a story for another day. But those are my honorable mentions that didn't make it into my favorite books of 2017, but they're all really good and you need to read them. But that's all for today's video. Let me know if you have read any of these books and which ones were your favorites, and if any of these books have made your top favorites of 2017. But that's all for today's video. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're all having a lovely day, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye.